Now, have you read any of the Bible?
I've read most of it. Yeah. I'm somewhat familiar with it. I try to stay current with it because I find it helpful to when I start discussions with street preachers or just people from the general public. Yeah. What is your background? Are you a Christian?
I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
Not as devout as I would like to be, but I'm working on it. So.
What would be your highest level of being devout? Like actually street preaching yourself? Is that a goal of yours?
Oh no. Well, my thought is wherever God takes me, that's where I'm going to end up. So, but there's other things that actually back up the Bible instead of the Bible. There's actually history books that are written in the same time. Non-Christian authors even. That, hey, this stuff actually happened. So, I don't know if you're aware of that, but
yes, and I could.
For me, if and I don't know, I've always been a believer, so I can't.
Yes, but
I can't say.
But
what it would do for you.
I've had conversations with Mormons, Jonathan, where they say that I follow Mormonism because Joseph Smith was a real man. We have his birth certificate. We have notarized documents from people that witnessed him writing the Book of Mormon. I have his fingerprints. We have actual old-time photographs of him from the 1800s. He really existed. The places that he said, that he mentioned in the Book of Mormon are actual real places. They're just as convinced that the Book of Mormon is true because of the very reasons that you're telling me that you believe that the Bible is true.
The Book of Mormon is a religion.
Yes.
And that's, if they believe that, they believe that. Like the church I go to, our philosophy is we're not going to beat up on anybody. If you don't want to be a Christian, we're not going to force it on you. Just like I wouldn't want somebody coming up to me and saying, hey, you need to be a homo because women suck.
You want to have the choice.
Yeah, it's like, if you want to listen to us, we're gonna educate you based on our Christian book and our Christian beliefs. And if you choose to believe that, great. If not, ultimately it's your choice.
Yeah. But if we have a Mormon that's 100% convinced that the Book of Mormon's true because of all the historical evidence that's in there, and that we can talk to people that knew that were related to the writers of the Book of Mormon, they're using the same evidence that you're citing that you use to believe that the Bible's true. So why aren't you believing in, say, the Bible and then also the Book of Mormon, or just the Book of Mormon because it's more recent?
Well, because the Book of Mormon it's different. And I don't know that I know that much about the Book of Mormon to actually have a debate. But
and I'm not an expert in it.
What I do know is that the Book of Mormon, even though it's historically documented, it doesn't have the same stuff that the Bible has.
Can you give me the best example of something that's in the Bible that, and you don't have to say because it's not in the Book of Mormon, but, what is the best example of something that you've come across in the Bible that convinces you that you're believing in the right God?
Well, probably the best thing that I can think of that makes me believe in the Bible is that God gives us free will. He's a just God, but He doesn't say you must, you will bow down to me, you will worship me. He says, everybody is a sinner. If you let me in, I will forgive you of those sins, but you must have faith in me for eternal salvation.
Are you saying that the main reason why you believe the God of the Bible is true is because that God gives you the choice to believe in him or not.
And also based on every historical event that has happened that's in the Bible as well.
Talking like prophecy?
Countless things.
Now, I've used this example before, but there's a city called New York, and Spider-Man is in New York. It doesn't mean that Spider-Man's true just because that city exists. So there are examples that I can probably give that, we have physical locations that are real, but it wouldn't necessarily mean that the stories that are being told are true.
That is true. I would agree with that.
But there's something about the Bible and the historical information of the Bible and the secular
if you take
writers of the day that mention Jesus. Is that what you're saying?
If you take the Bible, and then you take, I don't remember the name of the book, but the author was Josephus, and he was not a Christian author.
Right.
And there are events that they line up. So you've got the Bible
Josephus. And then this writer. Did Josephus meet Jesus?
Do what?
Did Josephus meet Jesus in his lifetime, or did he know him?
No. He wrote about these supernatural events that were occurring that a lot of other authors wrote up too.
So it sounds to me that evidence is somewhat of a part of your belief system. You mentioned faith, but you also are saying, here we got writers talking about him. For people that believe in evidence, they should also be able to give an example of what evidence it might take to falsify your belief. So for example, I'm convinced that the theory of evolution is true, but I'm open to being convinced that it's not true if we were to discover a human skull in the Cretaceous layer, and from the Cretaceous era. So is there some example that you can think of that would be evidence to that could be demonstrated that your conclusions of the Bible being true because of Josephus and things like that? What would that evidence be that you would point to say, what, I would accept this to falsify my belief? If you can't identify any bit of evidence that it would take to falsify your belief, then you're not evidence-based. A true scientist, somebody that's truly evidence-based, Jonathan, would be willing to listen to anything that might overturn what they've come to believe to be true.
I'm always willing to listen to anything.
But you're unable to provide to me an example. And I know I put you on the spot. But you're currently unable to give me an example of what that evidence might be that would cause you to revise your beliefs. And that's the very essence of somebody that's evidence-based.
Well, it might not make me revise. It might just make me think or do a little more research to back it up even more.
Or even convince. Yes, evidence can take you either way. Evidence ultimately brings you closer to the truth.
Like you were saying, creation versus evolution is my thought on creation versus evolution is, how do you date something when you really don't know how old it is? You just kind of make up something.
How much time have you spent researching the methodologies used to carbon date and radio date?
I haven't spent all that much time to know about it. I've just kind of heard. Basically what sparked my interest was Bill Nye versus
Ken Ham.
Did you watch that?
I did.
So that kind of sparked my interest, and there's a lot of good things in there. But it's kind of one of those things. Is how can you date something when you don't know how long ago it really existed?
There are some good resources online, and maybe it wasn't the latest episode of Cosmos, but they actually went into how they can measure the decay rate of something and then determine the age, and it's actually quite reliable if you use the proper dating methods for the proper materials. Oftentimes creationists will say, well, scientists have dated a snail and they found it to be, millions of years old. It can't possibly be. Well, that's, the snail is actually absorbing materials that are that old, and that's what gives it the date. So, but where was I wanted to go with something, and I just kind of lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. You did say you're evidence-based.
But, and also, what's your take? And there are a lot of people who believe in karma or good luck and miracles. There's just some things. How do you explain it other than divine intervention?
So if we don't know the answer to something, it's okay just to assert that a God did it, and specifically your God. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, no. Let me use this as an example. I work for an ambulance service, and my dad we had to pick up, and he was dying in the back of my ambulance. So we had to tube him and everything, and make some life-changing decisions, and we didn't have a pulse, and the doctor was about ready to call him dead, and I put one hand on his forehead, one hand on his heart, and prayed to God that he would bring him back, and his heart began to beat without being shocked. To me, that is divine intervention.
Now, it does sound like...
Can a heart do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but...
It's uncommon.
The odds are in the trillions. No bookie would handle it.
Now, let's say that, I was just really moved by your story, and I do appreciate you sharing that with me, especially being your dad. Because I lost my dad a couple years ago. So, yeah. So I'm glad that yours is still around. Let's say that I was just really moved by your story and researched it, and I was able to determine that there was probably a likely explanation for it, like maybe the kind of clothing he happened to be wearing, or what he ate for breakfast actually helped him later on for the recovery, or there was some worldly explanation for it, and it wasn't a supernatural explanation for it. If I could actually demonstrate that to you, where after we had that conversation, you would be completely convinced that what I was telling you was right, would you be willing to sit down with me again and listen to it?
Yeah, absolutely. If you could say, yeah, what happened wasn't a God thing, it was because of this, then, first of all, I would like to see, some statistics based on that.
Yep.
Which you would want to see statistics based on what,
Yes.
Okay, how many times has that happened, to somebody?
So it sounds like you would be open to hearing information that might contradict what you've come to believe is true, and that's really good. That is good.
Because that's the only way that you learn and grow.
Yes, but that does conflict with the earlier example where we were talking about what evidence would it take for you to get rid of your beliefs. You said that you were evidence-based, but you were unable to come up with any example of it. And do you see the problem there? So, maybe as a takeaway from this conversation, if you might maybe, think about what evidence would it take to convince me, just like you would be open to hearing the evidence that your father survived this terrible thing because of a worldly explanation, because that would be a good thing to know, right? Because the next time you encounter a patient like that, you can communicate that worldwide and save thousands of people. So that would be a good thing to know. But on the same hand, I think it would be important for you to reflect on what evidence might it take for you to get rid of thinking about something to be true. Because if you truly are evidence-based, you should be able to identify what that would be to get rid of that belief.
See, and I guess I've never really thought about it, but it's kind of one of those things, with a little kid, just know Santa Claus exists. You believe in Santa Claus and you believe in him.
She's over there. Let's go give her our money.
You know, for me, there's been things that happen in my life that, you know, people say karma, people say this, people say that. I disagree.
Yeah.
I disagree. And, you know, you may absolutely be right. I may die and you may be right. You may die and I may be right. But that's the good thing about America. We're free to believe.
Yes, sir.
What we want to believe.
And I would die for my right, and his right to be doing and preaching what they're doing. You know, I don't really agree with what they're saying. I definitely don't agree with their message. But I would die for their right to be doing what they're doing, for sure.
I agree with some of what they're saying, but not. Again, I come from a non-denominational church where, you know, like he was saying, you have to change your mind. You have to change your mind. I've always been told.
Change your mind with regards to what?
In order to believe and have faith, it starts here. I've always been told, and this I truly believe, it starts here. Your heart has to change before your mind changes. You have to let God into your heart, and then your mind gets changed.
What is the process for letting God into your heart? How did you do it?
Ask Him to come in.
Just verbally? You just say it?
You don't have to say it. See, that's the good thing. You can have a conversation with JC and not even open your mouth. I talk to him all the time.
Does he talk back?
Verbally? Not yet.
Mentally?
But mentally, you know, and I've been, because unfortunately, I'm a lukewarm Christian, and I've been talking to my pastor, and he's been helping me a lot. And, you know, how do you know God really talks to you? And, you know, that's one thing that I always tell, like, Tom, how do I know that God's talking to me and it's not just some voice I'm making up in my head? You know?
What did he say?
And he's like, okay, so, you know, you pray, he said, say you pray about something, and you keep praying about it, and, you know, say it's something that you really need. God will take care of you in His time. And, you know, I'm a firm believer of that. You know, especially, my wife and I almost lost our home because of a foreclosure deal when I got injured. And just the last day when we had to pay before it was going to go to the proceedings, we got 2 checks in the mail from insurance reimbursement and our tax check of the exact amount of what we needed to keep our home out of foreclosure.
On the very last day that
The very last
showed
day.
up?
So,
And you're viewing that as God talking to you?
I'm viewing that as God talking to me and said, hey, listen, see, I didn't let you down. And as long as you don't lose faith, I'm not going to let you down.
Do you think that if you had a tremendous amount of faith that you might get another check from the insurance company, you know, for $50,000 by the end of this week coming up,
No,
it would happen?
no. Because...
What's the difference between the example you gave and the one that I just gave?
Well, because he takes care of your needs, not your wants.
So if you had someone sued you for $50,000 and you had a need for it.
If somebody sued me for $50,000 one way or another, I believe he would take care of it. Some way he would take care of it.
Would you do?
Maybe the lawsuit would get dropped.
That's really
I don't
interesting
know.
that you would say that. Would you? Let's say that you did get sued for $50,000, you know, and you know it's due by the end of this month. And you know, would you just drop to your knees and start praying, or would you actually take steps to actually raise the money, contact friends and family, take on a job, sell things?
I would pray every day and do everything I could to try to get the money.
Yeah.
You know, and that
You
was,
would try to get
one
it.
thing with with the whole foreclosure thing
Hey, what's
is
up?
we tried to get money and everything, and
I think he wants to talk to you.
how's it going?
How's it going?